I really feel like there's a, a coding out there, like that we just have to see, the connections, the strings between everything. And
Hmm.
this has been the most magical journey um, to to explore that. And I just love thinking about these connections so much. And something came to mind actually. Again, it came to mind before when you were talking about the phenomena that when you say something to others or you teach something, you're actually doing it to yourself as
Yeah.
well. I
Yeah.
mean, this connection right there.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting phenomena that I want to share with you. Um, and you probably know this, but lately, when I do sessions with clients, I can guarantee that there will be three issues that we talk about in the context of the client's life, at least that also applied to
Yes.
me.
Yes.
And now it's almost like a game. I write it down just for me on the side, like parallels, you know, things, very specific things that are the same in each other's lives. And the timing of the issues that come up are so interesting. I almost feel like now, through my own life experience, I kind of unlock the ability to work with certain clients. Like I had to go through something to be able to work with this person, and it happened to me 4 weeks ago.
Hi, everyone. It's Candace Craw-Goldman from quantumhealers.com. And today I am catching up with, oh my God, one of my favorite people in the world, Mario Radinger. You are one of my favorite people in the world. And I mean, look at you. You are like glowing. You must be like intensely, amazingly happy because look at you. Hi.
Hi. Oh my God, wow. Thank you so much, Candace. I I caught some sun today. Maybe that's it.
Well,
I
we
went
all need
outside.
that sun.
Yeah, we do. Especially over here in Germany. It's been very cloudy, very gray, and so the sun came out today and I had to run out and catch a bit of it. So maybe that's the glow.
Uh, okay, partially, but just you just look intensely happy. And I'm not kidding either. I don't say that about everybody that I press record and talk to at all. That you're one of my favorite people. It's not just a canned line. You really are one of my favorite people. You've been around for a really long time. You have the biggest, kindest heart. You're a creator, and you care about people. And I just love you so much. And today we are catching up, and we're catching up
Yes.
publicly like this in a professional way. And I've already told Mario, save all the personal stuff for the end, like, just the between us stuff. We'll talk about that at the end. There's not a whole lot of that from my end, but so catch us up. Mario is, I mean, like I said, he's a creator. He's a manifester. He writes books. He creates projects. He has things going on at all times. So catch us up. What you been up to?
Oh my God, what have I been not up to? Um, well, oh my God, it's so nice to see you.
I know, it's just, I just tell you,
Oh, come here.
love you so much. Truly love you. Yeah.
You know, you've entered my mind so many times over the last weeks and months, and I met a lot of people who reminded me of you,
Oh,
which was, yeah, it was quite specific, like mannerisms and expressions in their eyes and hairstyle. And you entered my reality in very interesting ways. And I mean, I think about you um, all the time. Like you are definitely with me, if not physically, then in spirit. And so when I saw the signs in physical form, I just knew we had to connect.
Well,
We have to talk. Mm.
that's wonderful. I feel the same way about you. I have only the fondest, most supportive kind of memories of you. Always, always. From the very beginning, we were friends and supporting each other without I don't think this is too personal to say. I've never felt the tiniest bit, not even a hint of friction with you, which is a normal thing to feel with somebody, right? I mean, sometimes that just happens with people when you're working things out or working together or even communicating. There might be moments of, I don't know, stickiness or something.
Mm.
I can't even conceive of one I ever had with you. It's just always been a complete and utter joy. Okay, so let's stop with the love each other fest. That might get boring for people who are listening. Tell us what you're up to. I want to know what your latest project is. So you are in Germany now, but you spend a great deal of your time on an island.
True. And maybe some of those listening to us right now know this island. It's called Majorca. It's Spanish. It's in the Mediterranean. And I have quite a long connection to this island due to friends. A friend that you know as well, Kai.
Yeah. Beautiful Kai.
Yeah, well, yes. One of my best friends, he has a deep connection to Mallorca, and that's how I was introduced to it. And I've been traveling there regularly for a long time. And when in 2020 the world changed quite
Yes.
dramatically, I increased the amount of time.
As well, you should
Um,
have.
yes, it saved me. It really saved me. Germany was not the best place to be in at the time, and so I had my little refuge in the middle of the Mediterranean, and yeah, it's so lovely there. I travel back and forth now. I have been doing it constantly, and I will go back in a week, roughly a week. Yeah,
I think
and
that energy is part of what has it's like imbued in you now. I mean, you even look a little bit of Spanish on the edges here. I mean, really, seriously. Maybe it's the hair. I don't know. Ooh, let's see. We've got okay. So I've got a frozen screen right now. I don't know if you can see me or hear me. Did I lose you?
um,
No,
you
there you are.
froze. There you are. Oh yeah, right.
There you are.
Yeah, but apart from traveling, I've been busy with a program I published here in Germany to help people who are interested in hypnosis, quantum hypnosis, healing others by sharing my experience that I've collected over the um, 10 years that I've been doing this work now, and that's been keeping me busy. And
We're back. And you were telling us about programs that you, or a program that you are running in Germany to help people. And so, yeah, tell us a little bit more about that.
well, it's basically um, everything that I've learned over the years through working with my clients and the realizations I've had, the challenges I had to go through, the ideas that I've tried out and experimented with over the years, and all of this is basically in this program that I call transformative soul journeys. That's its name, and yeah, I've been sharing it with people for a bit over a year now, and it brings me great joy. I love doing it.
So, this is for people who are working on themselves, right? This isn't like a practitioner program. This is individual. It's a program for individuals.
But it's mainly for practitioners.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But of course, you can also apply it to yourself.
Of course.
Of course. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, I'm actually, maybe I'm just projecting here a little bit as I say that, because I'm working on myself. I'm working on a in the college system here in America, we have classes called surveys. Sometimes they're like introductory kind of classes, survey. So if you take a
Mhm.
survey on archaeology or whatever, you're not going to learn, deep specific things, but it's kind of an overview, right? It's called
Okay.
survey classes. I'm kind of doing that thing with self-healing that I'm going to release as a class, or a program for individuals, not practitioners.
Mhm.
I'm working on that right now, and I'm kind of starting at absolute zero, meaning where I was when I first started, which is, starting to see that the conventional traditional medical approach just wasn't working for me at all when I was trying to
Right.
address some of my own issues. And I'm just starting to learn about the idea of energy healing, or myself helping my own self, coming from myself, that didn't have to do with going to anybody else outside of myself, which is, for a lot of people on the planet, this is a new concept. For you and I who've been doing this 10, 15, 20 years, it's our everyday language, and we just fully accept it all, but we're still a small part of society, quite a small part.
Yes, that's very true. And I am confronted with this every day with, friends and family. And,
Sure.
just because you've been doing this for a long time, it doesn't mean that everyone around you is kind of um, a part of that. So it's still, there's still very different worlds out there, you know?
It's absolutely true. I've been going uh, to a personal trainer, which at first seemed laughable to me, because I'm like, I live on a farm. I lift weights and I do stretches and exercises, just with hay bales and horses and buckets and bags and things like that. And I thought, I don't need a personal trainer. Oh, kind of I do. Kind of I do,
Mm,
because what I have really, really learned was I use certain parts of my body very, very well. And in certain parts of my body are very, very strong. And other parts of my
mhm,
body are not as strong at all. I'm not overall. I
mhm,
really needed somebody who, well, I'm benefiting, have somebody show me how to be overall healthier. And as I'm heading into my mid 60s, this is, very important for me. But let me tell you what has been so much fun, because I have a partner, and
mhm,
she and I go together, and she's 20 years younger than me, but we're still kind of on the same level of fitness. And then our personal trainer, he's just 29. I mean, he's going to be 30 like this summer. So he's an absolute baby,
okay.
and younger than my own kids, but a really great guy. But what I have found is, with my regular interaction with these two people, because, we actually are friendly and we like each other. We don't just talk about how many
Mhm.
curls we've done, or whatever. We talk about life, in a
Yeah.
friendly way. And there are times when I'm able to ask some really interesting questions that have put some of this into their world, like, the trainer will say, well, that one knee is, it's kind of giving me some trouble today, and I've really had a problem with that knee for a while. And I'll just look up and I'll just say, well, which side, you know, and I'll ask a few questions. He's like, what does that matter? And I'm like, well,
Well,
it could matter, just some different things like that, and ways of thinking. And it's been, and
mm,
this when you are explaining to anybody concepts of wellness and personal empowerment, that's when you're the best teacher, when you're reminding yourself, and you like reinforce it in yourself, like, anyone who's a good teacher can feel that you're not just helping the person in front of you. You are reinforcing and telling yourself this over and
Oh,
over again
yes.
too, and it stays and remains real and fresh and accessible and lively, right?
Mm,
So I absolutely
mm.
adore talking to people about this, even the people whose eyes get really big like saucers and say things like, what do you mean, get well without a doctor? It's like,
Yeah,
well, or maybe without everything that the doctor says, shall we say.
yeah, that's so true. And I remember the time when I was a full-time dance teacher, and I was at the same time entering the world of, quantum healing, hypnosis, and so it kind of overlapped in my thinking, obviously, my consciousness. And so when I was teaching as like dancing, there were concepts from the other realm just like flowing through me, and I used metaphors or analogies that kind of combined the two, which also made me realize how everything we do on a physical level is very much tied to what's happening in the non-physical, and dancing especially, with its artistic element. And so, like you said, I didn't try it, I didn't push anything, but it was so rewarding when at the time when I finished that career, I ended it and I fully focused on the healing and the hypnosis, that former dance students came to me and said, I'll never forget the 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 impulses, the ideas, the concepts that you brought into this. And it influenced me so much, and I'll always carry that with me. And that was just, without even knowing what we do, we sometimes change a lot.
It's so true. And I can make sort of the same conversation and statements about art,
Mhm.
creating visual imagery and blending those two things and bringing them into this work too, and seeing how all of that fit in. And then my whole life with animals and horses and the energy exchange and understanding and reading the energy of those animals. It just all of those different places. But this reminds me of a session. I don't know if I've talked to you about this session before. Mario, I had at least two, but one in particular I can think of right now. A woman who um, she had a past life. So we were doing an online session. I remember where we were because I remember where the laptop was sitting. And for me, it was, well, now how am I going to handle this? And so what I'm talking about is she actually didn't go to a past life. She went to experience life as a dolphin in the ocean. And very quickly, Mario, she spoke no more words. Words stopped, like she was communicating. She was so um, enmeshed in the energy of dolphin. The only thing that came out was a little bit of vocalization and movements. And I mean, I was like trying to keep the session going. And I thought, well, and I would ask questions, and she would, I mean, are you ready for this? She would answer the questions with movement.
Wow.
So, I mean,
Hmm.
just the whole thing. And I'm like, thank you that we're recording this, that there's a visual of this, because this is how she needs to see this when it's
Hmm.
over, to help prompt her to remember what concepts she was. So I was getting them
Yes.
sort of psychically or telepathically, but there was very little words happening. And I just was like, well, I'll just keep going. And the whole thing was a dance regression, really.
How extraordinary. Wow. Do you have that video somewhere? I would love to see this.
I know, I know. I ask, you know how it is. You ask people, and very often they bare your soul to you. And I know a lot of people do sessions online, and I know a lot of people put portions of sessions online. And in the main, my clients are very physically focused in the main. I don't
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of like 15th dimensional being
Mm-hmm.
kind of information come through. It's very earth based, day to day human interests that are my main focus. It kind of always has been. Stuff has come in on the edges, of course, but almost everybody, I think people come to me because I don't put very much online and they don't want to share very much. Every once in a while I'll ask, or I will ask if I can just summarize their sessions, but very few of my sessions end up um, going out visually on YouTube. But did you happen to see the one though that it's from last summer, so it's about a year ago. I did a tandem session with my friend Will Brown. Allison Brown led the session. I did a tandem session,
Right.
and my
Yeah.
body the whole time was going. Well, I was flopping like a fish. It wasn't near as lovely as my dolphin client, uh, but the energy was, oh,
Mm.
it was so good. I mean, I wish I could
Mm.
bottle that up and just take a swig of it anytime
Yeah.
I wanted to. That
Yeah.
was amazing.
I love that as well when it translates into the physical.
Yeah.
It's very similar to your way of doing it. I don't um I protect the privacy of my clients like very strongly. And sometimes clients offer to put the material out there. And I love that, then it's
Sure.
very organic, it's very authentic, and it's their free will, to put it out there. And then I do it. But yeah, it doesn't happen very often either here.
Yeah.
And that's fine with me. But in sessions when physical things happen, I just love
I do too.
it.
I do too.
Yeah.
Crazy stuff.
Mhm.
Crazy stuff.
Mhm.
That change of the voice, the dolphin voice, changing of the even of the accent sometimes, or of the projection if it's a young child, or um, one of my favorite ones always that I've referenced this a number of times, but one of the most striking was a woman who actually used to work for Dolores Cannon. She was the receptionist. Her name was Joy. And
Mhm.
she was bigger than life. She really was. She was a big woman, and she was bigger than life, and she laughed a lot. And uh, she was the one, I'll never forget this, because I feel like she's like here right now. She has passed. She has since passed. She introduced me to a group called World Dancing for Peace. Have you ever heard of that? Dancing for Peace, World Dancing for Peace. Yeah, it was an organization.
Wow.
I had
Okay.
never heard of it. And there was a chapter or a group right there in Arkansas where Dolores lived, right there. And it was just people, it was kind of a unity church type feel. It was people who would come together,
Mhm.
and they would just put on some music, and it was usually circular, and it was just kind of like a group meditation, group prayer, but with the joy of dance added to it. And
Oh,
there's the kind of a version of that right here in Kansas too. And I'm on their list, but I just can't get there. I can't get there with my responsibilities and with dad. I just
right.
can't. It's like having a toddler anymore. My dad, I mean, he's doing great, but he needs someone with him basically at all times. And I have somebody outside this room right now taking care of dad so I can do this interview. But I don't seem to be able to get to do some of those extra things. And I try not to lament too much, because the day that I can start to do some of those things, that there'll likely be one less person in this house. So I try to tell myself not to be too upset when I don't get out much or travel. I haven't been anywhere at all for the longest time.
But you can dance, Candace.
This is
You can
true.
dance
This is true. And
in your
qigong,
home.
qigong is kind of my dance too. I don't know. I have found that qigong has it has validated some of my natural energy expressions. Like I'm one of those people, I know that there are people out there listening who, you know what I'm going to mean. You know, you people who are annoyed at people who like bounce their leg, like who shake their leg to download energy. You know, they just sit and their little leg bounces like that. Oh, tell me you know that people like that. So you've not met any of those people.
No.
They're usually very high energy people. And so my husband is not one of those people. And we'd just be sitting to dinner or whatever. And under the table, my leg is going like this. And he's like, you are driving me nuts. And because he could feel he can feel that energy going. And if I don't do that, then that energy stays in me. And it's
Hmm.
not a good thing. It's like an offloading of energy. It's like an
Okay.
overflow. It has to go out. And if it doesn't go out, it goes somewhere. It has to go somewhere. And so I have found that Qigong and some of Qigong's movements
Hmm.
it's absolutely perfect. It's one of the things that helps me offload some of that excess energy. And rather than be
I can see
embarrassed
why.
by it anymore, I feel very blessed that I have more energy. I mean, even now, I mean, I know I'm not elderly, but even in my older age, I have more energy than I can keep in my body.
Well, you work with a personal trainer. Also,
Yes.
get
Yeah.
rid of it in a
Yeah.
way, I
Yes, I
suppose.
do. Yes, I do. And
Hmm.
actually, the next video I'm going to make after this, I won't say much because I don't want to do the whole video right now. But I actually, for the first time, just the other day, just last week, felt fully the concept of endorphins from exercise. Fully.
Hmm.
I thought it was a myth, and there was a challenge. Okay, I'm going to brag a little. So there was a challenge, and the challenge was, so you put I'm not going to talk about the endorphin part, but I'm going to talk about the barbell part because I'm really proud of myself. So you put a barbell across here, and actually didn't even know what the weight was. It was pretty decent weight, and then we did squats. So as if
Hmm.
this chair, so I would stand up and sit down in the chair, stand up and sit down in the chair,
Right.
and both my friend and I were doing this with the trainer, and I didn't even know how much was on my back. But I heard him say to my friend, you're going to have to do at least your age. So she's 42 and I'm 62. And when I heard that, I thought, now he's going to look at me and tell me I have to do my age. At the time, I'm like at 20 and it's hard, and I'm like 62, oh my God. So she keeps going and keeps going. And I just decided, to tune everything out and just one at a time, just one at a time, just one at a time. And then Jack, my trainer, looks over and he says, well, what number are you at? And I was just right at 60. And I'm like, I can do my age. And then I hit my age. I'm like, can I do another one? And I was like, okay, I can. And I kept going and I kept going. And then I was like in the 80s, and he's like, you're in the 80s. You can get to 90, you can get to 100. And I'm like, oh, I can't do that. But I did. I got to 100. And that's when I found out how much weight was on my back. And it was 75 pounds. So I squatted up and down
Wow.
7,500 pounds. And I sat down, and it was hard, and my heart was pumping and everything. And that's when the endorphins showed up. And I have to say, and this is not an exaggeration, I think I've had hints of them and over my life, and I'm a physical person. I've never had them come on like a waterfall. I was absolutely stunned. I was walking around the rest of that workout like in a daze. It was amazing. No wonder you runners who can have that happen to you keep doing that. I never had that. I even trained and ran a half marathon, and people are talking about the endorphins. I'm like, you liars. I don't know what you're talking about. But I got it last week, and the energy of that was extraordinary. I imagine dancers have that, right? They get the
Yes.
endorphins when they dance.
Yes, definitely. You just reminded me of it. And it's very interesting because I've also discovered um, a new way of appreciating and experiencing movement. Because, I've been a professional dancer for a long time. Started when I was a small child, and until I was 25, I did this really intensely, like full on high level dancing. So, and at the time, yes, endorphins were definitely part of this. Then when I stopped dancing, I started going to the gym, you know? And at the time that was more for vanity, I'm happy to admit, it's like it was more about building a body. And so that was a different side to movement, than before. Before it was the joy of it and the creativity of it and the love. In the gym, I did not feel the love.
I think I get it.
But for a couple of years now, I quit the gym and I started doing, moderate exercise at home, in the park, in a more organic setting, not as heavily as before. And nowadays, when I don't do it for a while, I can feel my body going down. I don't know how else to
Yeah.
describe it. It's like
Agreed.
the hormones or, the joy is like going down. I become a bit more miserable, you can say, and,
Yes.
nervous and on the edge. And then when I move again, everything changes.
Hmm.
And that must be that what you were just talking about, the endorphins. Like the
Yeah.
body, it appreciates, it
Yeah.
enjoys it, it loves it when it gets moved, you
Right.
know?
Right.
And
Because why are we here if not the physicality, right? I mean, there's other ways
yes,
to be alive that don't include this um, dense
and that
physical part.
e- exactly, and this is something that I sometimes am a bit like not sad about, but most of my days I'm sitting down.
Yeah.
When I do sessions, I sit. When I do Akashic readings, I sit. When I create content and edit stuff, I mean, you know this, you sit. And I had a day like a couple of weeks or months even ago where I was like, wow, how interesting. Like I was so active and moved constantly as a dancer, as a child, and now I don't move at all anymore unless I make an effort to do so, to do some exercise. And as much as I love the work that I do, it takes place in a seat, in a chair,
Yes.
on a
Yes.
couch. And so you have to watch that. I
Yeah.
realize I have to watch it, I have to make sure that I get my movement in every day,
Yep.
especially because of the work we do.
Yep.
Yeah.
This is why you're going to have to probably take me away from this farm in a box because this farm keeps me moving. I have
Hmm.
had for, believe it or not,
Hmm.
it's been about 6 weeks right now. I've had trouble with a water line freezing, and I have waters and different water lines, and I have had to carry buckets of water for quite a while. And I have found these like flexible ones and it works, but it's actually an exercise that Jack has us do in the gym. Do you know what it's called? It's called the farmer's carry. And I'm like, I do the farmer's carry all the time. And I have to do it all the time. And oh my gosh, and I'm so proud of myself. And those are some of the muscles that I can do. But um, then I'm reminded of that famous phrase, right? Chop wood, carry water, chop wood, carry water. I'm carrying water all over the place. And then water. Oh my gosh, the water portion of it, which of course is so important to my approach at this BQH and healing. And I am finding how much water is just like we're talking about movement, right? Movement, it's so much a part of the human's life. Well, so is water. And like in the upcoming immersion class that I'm going to have here in Kansas in April, the last part of April, I always update it with new information. And some of what I'm studying right now and understanding is about the fascia, right? The fascia, which is that thin coating over the muscles. And there's extraordinary research going on and thinking going on in two ways that fit right into quantum healing, right? And one is having the fascia be the actual storage mechanism of memory and thought and all of that, and even past life stuff, which we kind of already know the body stores it, but there are people who are looking at it so minutely, they're actually saying, well, yeah, it's the body, but look at that fascia. And then Gerald Pollack and some of the people who are studying the different states of water, he calls it like the fourth state of water. And there are people now who are minutely looking at fascia and the fibers, and this plugs in right to dance, right? The fibers are covered in like a sheath of water, Mario.
Uh-huh.
Wow. Now, think about that in terms of sitting.
Yeah.
And when you sit, you probably are dehydrating and letting some of that go, and you're not flushing it, and you're not, you know what I mean? There's all these connections, there's all these connections. I could just see my husband right now. He's going like this. You make connections that can't possibly exist to each other. I'm like, really? That makes my life interesting. He'd be listening to this going, dance, muscles, water, carrying horses. How do you connect all those things? And it's like, that's my life.
Well, yeah, that's something that I don't think it will ever stop. Things connecting. I feel the same way, Candace. I think our brains work the same way. These like connecting stuff, it's so ingrained in the way my consciousness works. And I sometimes it's too much to carry with you, like to remember even, Do you know what I mean? Like I've made it a habit to constantly have this notepad with me because there's so many connections that I'm like, oh, now I understand this. Oh, that's why. Oh, right, that's related. It's like if I don't have this notepad, it gets lost. It like
you know what I'm going to do? I'm taking this camera and I'm going to show you what my wall looks like, right? Can you see all those Post-it notes?
Yes.
That's where I do it. Right there.
Yes.
It's exactly what I'm doing. I'm like, and Tom and Lauren, they're like, you should capture it with digital. I'm like, but I can't. It's like it's
no. I've tried it as well digitally. It's not as practical. You have to do it in the moment when it happens.
Yes. Yep. So I've tried to keep my little Post-it notes around like that. So yours is better though. Like it's all in one place with pages. I don't seem to be able to.
Well, Candace, it is in the beginning, but I mean, I can't go next door now because Kosa is working in the next room. But there's a wall that looks very much like yours.
Do you have strings? Do you have strings that connect?
Like in the crime shows? Where they're in my mind. Like the strings are there. I can see them. Yeah.
Agreed. Mm-hmm. Where Tom giggles at me, I almost think of it as a challenge, or tell me how these two, whatever they are, two things are not connected. Everything. It's a ridiculous statement to make, but yeah, everything's connected. Is this important? Somebody will say, well, almost everything's important, I think. And coincidences and small things that happen. I mean, I remember the first time that the idea even occurred to me, and it was reading about somebody's account of getting up from a chair or something and walking over to do something and stubbing their toe, and then taking that as communication, not just as I'm stubbing my toe, it's not connected to anything, it doesn't mean anything. Well, what were you holding in your mind? What were you getting ready to do? Which foot did you stub your toe on? And there's a certain populace part of the population that would go, well, of course that doesn't have anything to do with it. And you and I'd be like, not so fast. not so fast at all, as a matter of fact. And when I happened to have read that, I had just stubbed my toe earlier, right? And when that all of those three things connected up, I'm like, my whole world changed.
Hmm.
It just really changed. I suddenly went, right.
Yeah.
It was a revelation for me. And that
Yeah.
happened. I probably was a teenager or something when that happened. So, I mean, long before the bigger things started happening in my life, but I started paying attention. And to this day, I think about in America, the children have a little rhyme, a sing-songy rhyme about walking on a sidewalk. And the rhyme is, Mario, step on a crack, you break your mother's back. I still think about this little childhood rhyme when
Mhm.
I'm walking on a sidewalk, and I really wonder about it. I wonder about a whole generation or multiple generations of kids who are either avoiding cracks in the
Right.
and or stepping. I mean, see, here's making a connection. There's probably people giggling out there, but I don't think that it's because if you're paying attention to it, or you're having swaths of children pay attention to something, I submit to you the energetics of humanity as a whole are affected by whatever it is they're paying attention to, right?
Yeah, definitely. It spreads. And I really feel like there's a, a coding out there, like that we just have to see, the connections, the strings between everything. And
Mm-hmm.
this has been the most magical journey um, to to explore that. And I just love thinking about these connections so much. And something came to mind actually. Again, it came to mind before when you were talking about the phenomena that when you say something to others or you teach something, you're actually doing it to yourself as
Yeah.
well. I
Yeah.
mean, this connection right there.
Yeah.
And there's an interesting phenomena that I want to share with you. Um, and you probably know this, but lately, when I do sessions with clients, I can guarantee that there will be three issues that we talk about in the context of the client's life, at least that also applied to
Yes.
me.
Yes.
And now it's almost like a game. I write it down just for me on the side, like parallels, you know, things, very specific things that are the same in each other's lives. And the timing of the issues that come up are so interesting. I almost feel like now, through my own life experience, I kind of unlock the ability to work with certain clients. Like I had to go through something to be able to work with this person, and it happened to me 4 weeks ago. You know, because now I'm working with this person, and the specific thing, whatever it is, I had to go through 4 weeks ago. It's so. Do you know what I mean?
I know
Yes.
exactly what you mean. And if
Yeah.
you really think about it in a much larger sense, even like, I'll use biblical terms. If you're thinking about the idea that God is experiencing creation through us, then it makes perfect, amazing, brilliant, beautiful sense, right? Well, we'll figure it
Mhm.
out this way, and then this way, and then we'll make this connection this way. If you really think that there's an energy, a creative, singular energy that needed a way to um, be with itself in a creative manner so that it
Mhm.
separated itself out into singular perspectives, or soul groups, or I mean, there's a lot of different ways, very deep ways of looking at that. But that's when I get really excited about that idea too. It's like it's like we're little foot soldiers, and and we're part of this much grander plan for God or source to know itself better. And that's a beautiful thing. And that is why I can't imagine doing anything else with my life. I don't know about you. I can't imagine doing anything else. What else could you possibly do out there that is as rich and accessible and amazing and limitless as what we're doing? I can't think of anything. And anything that you might do, you can still even bring back into doing this, right? Which is why I almost thought you were going to do this when you were picking up your notebook. I try to set down sometimes the quantum healing stuff and look at something completely different, meaning not other quantum healers work, right? Or not other metaphysical work. And of course, I have a huge interest in horses right now. And so I find it fascinating to watch some different horse training or horse theory videos, or people talk about that, and then feel or see how they talk about all of our concepts through their particular lens and language, right? And that's when I really feel energized, right? Or I have, like, my massage lady, when I talk to her about her concepts, and then they come into play as well. Having these deep conversations with other people within their focus and their frame of reference, what they do in their life, there's a lot of parallels that we can bring back into what we do with clients and quantum healing.
Yes. And it's important, I believe, as well, to stay connected to the outside,
Sure.
to
Yeah.
other branches of life and other fields of interest. And because one can get quite immersed in what we do. I certainly had times where I felt like I was not part of the rest of the world anymore, like really, in a
Yeah.
bubble, so
Yeah.
to speak. And my clients were like the only gateway out of there. So yeah, that's also something I've learned. Not just the importance of movement, but also the importance of reaching out, and
Sure.
looking in other directions.
So we've been talking for almost an hour, 12 minutes shy of
What?
an hour. I know it's true. And I almost hesitate to bring in this subject, but I've got to ask you, because I'm wondering if you've been thinking about it. The prevalence of artificial intelligence right now, it's come into some discussions. And in terms of what we've just talked about, have you had sessions or done any deep thinking about, the very concept that you were talking about before, when we sit and when we interface with these machines? And I did this. I had this absolutely shocking thing happen just within Photoshop. A program that I've used for 25 years now, I guess, almost. I've been using Photoshop because I was a photographer and an artist long before I was doing this work. And I had a friend actually had taken a photograph of me out in our woods, and she had me like standing right in the middle of a trail, one of my favorite trails, and I was holding a tiny bird's nest. And it's a lovely photograph. It's a great photograph, and I'm holding a bird's nest like this, and it's beautifully framed and focused, and I am smack dab in the middle of this photograph. And I thought, and I looked at the rest of the photos, and I thought, well, that would have been great if I'd had a horizontal image of that too. And thinking about using, for, let's say, a slide with a title somewhere to actually use it as an image for something, right? And I knew that Photoshop had and has AI connected to it, and you can do this. You can say, and you can put a frame around that photo, and you could say, what if she actually did turn the camera and frame it out horizontally rather than have this vertical image of just those trees and that path? And I asked AI it was the first time I'd ever done it. And I asked AI to imagine the rest of the scene over there. Okay.
Yeah.
It's called, predictive or generative background. I about fell off my chair. I about fell off my chair because not only was it incredibly believable, not only was the light absolutely spot on, it almost like that looks like a tree that actually is there. That's creepy. How did it do that? How did it make that one tree over there do that? It couldn't see that tree from the information that was there. And I was absolutely shocked, and I saved it, and I asked a few other things. And then I tried, this, Mario. She had actually too with this vertical image. So the real question is, interfacing with this, but the stories that are leading up to it are just too funny. So the vertical image, she actually cut my boots off. So like my feet weren't, like I had these boots on here, these black boots, but my feet were like this. And I was like, okay, now I'm going to ask it to fill in those black boots. And it was absolutely just crazy. Like it gave me elf boots that went out sideways that looked ridiculous. And I was laughing at that. And then I tried something else, and I said something, I can't remember what I said. I think I tried boots again or something. And do you know what it did, Mario? Gave me a different set of boots. It also put some sort of being next to me, like a whole nother person who wasn't a person and who had like a distorted face, kind of looking
Okay.
down at boots. And it was so creepy. It was like, and where did that come from? And I blew those images away. I didn't want to pay attention to them anymore.
Mm.
But it got me thinking about interfacing with AI. So I wonder if you've given that some thought.
Well, so far I've been mostly curious about it. I think it's fascinating concept, and I believe there are a lot of very practical applications of this. And I also started working with AI, programs for pictures or for information or spelling, correction, editing. And it makes my life easier, definitely. But I have I'm very aware of like the consciousness that we work with when we do these things. Like I almost feel like there's a presence
Mm-hmm.
that I'm interacting with, doesn't just feel like a computer or a program.
Mm-hmm.
And but I try not to be afraid, or worry too much about it. I have a feeling it's all gonna be okay. And I just try to enjoy, I try to have it help me um as much as it feels right to do. But I'm also very aware of a time still when none of this was around,
Right.
like I I'm one of these like um what do you say, threshold generations. Like I remember a childhood without any of this, without computers, without internet. And so it's fine. Like I'm quite detached, I would say, emotionally to it.
I'm reminded of sitting on my grandma's porch when I was a child. She didn't
Mhm.
live near us. We were visiting, and a woman walked up and sat on the porch, and I can't remember, just gave her like a very basic message, something like, I don't even remember, but the fire station is having their bake off next week or whatever. I mean, just something,
Right.
something along those lines. And I remember
Mhm.
asking my grandma, because of the weather or the roads or whatever, I was like, Grandma, how come she didn't just pick up the phone and call you
Mm.
and tell you that? And my grandma told me, so, these are people who are born, these are people who are born at the turn of the century, basically, right? These are people born either in the late 1800s, my grandma, or like 1902, I think my grandma was born, right? So, something like that. And I remember she looked at me and she said, well, she has a telephone in her home, but she won't use it. And I'm like, well, why not? Right? Why not? And she said, well, she's just not sure about it. Just like the kind of conversation we're having right now, a little bit. And there's a part of you that wants to giggle and think that's funny. It's so much part of our lives. I mean, look what we're doing right now. We're able to talk, across continents and seas and oceans, which is amazing. But at the same time, that woman walked through space, had fresh air on her face, had sunshine in her eyes, and was within this is giving me goosebumps, was within the physical presence of my grandma. And that was important to her. And I think in the main, we don't give that enough credit because we're a species, we're humans, but we're a species like a bird belongs in a flock. We are humans who belong in groups. We are a social species. We just are. I mean, this is why solitary confinement is one of the worst things you can do to a human. So the separation, just the automatic separation of some of this is a little concerning to me, but we're getting ready, I think, to release a blog article on a quantum healer's blog by a practitioner who she and her husband work with AI in some educational programming. And she has some really interesting thoughts about this, but I think we need to keep talking.
Yes.
We need to keep talking about this thing that is a consciousness. And I understand and there may be technical details, and people like Elon Musk might say, well, right now it can't do anything, but maybe it could, or so. I mean, that's a different perspective, but I think we as quantum healers may be able to sense and provide feedback, shall we say, about interacting with the AI in our world right now.
Yeah. And it's growing fast.
Yes.
Like, not so much in my everyday life, but when I go, on Instagram, and I mean, there's so much. There are incredible things happening with AI right now that you don't hear about if you don't reach out, what's already possible. And that's just the beginning. It's quite the exciting times we live in.
So you might know that my daughter Lauren also is a photographer, and right now we play, just every once in a while when we happen to be side by side with the computer, we kind of play this game. When we see an image, we'll show one to the other, or organic or AI. And so far we know it right away when it's AI. Yeah. And I don't mean like the one where I'm in the woods and the woods were generated. I mean when these all automatically from the beginning generated, they have a look to them. And so far that look is very particular. And it's easily spotted, but I don't think it'll always stay that way.
No, I feel the same way.
You know what else I did? Have you heard of this, Mario? Because I actually did this. I don't have the best voice in the world. I know I talk about that a lot. I have to when I do my inductions. I know. Thank you for. I know. No, it's true though. I don't have. I mean, look at me. I have this kind of a voice. I have that energy, right? But
it's so comfortable though. I love listening to you, and I'm sure a lot of people out there listening right now feel the same way.
I bet I'm blushing, which I probably could use it because I didn't put any blush on my winter face. I could probably use a little bit of blushing. Well, I really have to pay attention to my voice when I'm doing meditations or inductions or talking to clients in that way. I really switch gears. I just really
Mm.
switch gears. I'm not this
Mm-hmm.
high vibe stuff. But we're working on some projects, and I happen to see that you can clone your voice. So you can, so I did this the other day just to see, like, let's see how good they are at it. So for a solid minute, you just talk. You can either read stuff or you just talk and talk and talk and talk for a solid minute. And then the AI takes your voice. It's called voice cloning. It takes your voice. I know. Takes your voice, and then your voice then will read like a prepared statement. And what was absolutely fascinating was I was doing this with Lauren. So both of us were looking at it because we were just curious, let's see how this works.
Yeah.
And when we did the playback, I was surprised at how close it was. And I was surprised that it got a lot of the inflection correct, which of course is always been a problem. The way sentences end or the way we move through speaking. It was pretty good. It was a little high and a little tinny, but the part that was fat, and in like all AI, it's going to get better. But the really interesting part was watching my daughter speak about it and talk about the automatic knowledge for her that wasn't my voice. And why is that? Of course, because she's somebody who receives my voice in a different way than me producing my voice, right? So for her, there was, believe this or not, there was more of a disconnect for her than there was even for me, which I found, right? I found that whole thing fascinating. And I mean, this was all of 3 minutes in our life, a few days ago, but it's stuck with me in the sort of technology sense, meaning where we're going with all this.
Yeah, try it again in a year.
Right.
It's probably going to sound pretty close.
Right. And referencing Photoshop again, and I remember when it was 2002 or so that Tom gave me a digital camera. Actually, it was like a birthday present or something. And I was like, I have a camera. Why did you get me a digital camera? Digital cameras changed everything with my photography because of a lot of it has to do with my patience and my energy. I learned faster, right? Because if you take photos with different settings and you get the feedback immediately, that didn't happen with film. And my patience and my energy, I didn't connect the two very well. Like the way you used to have to do it, Mario, was with a film camera. On shot 17, I had f-stop 8 and my shutter speed was 1/200th of a second. I mean, remember my wall. Do I have the patience for that? No, I had no patience for that. I was just taking more photos and then I'd come back and then I didn't have the learning. But with the digital camera, the learning was instantaneous. It was like, oh, I like that one. What setting was that? And it was all captured for me and I could see it. Oh, that was that f-stop. I used that lens. I used that shutter speed. So my photography went from meh, maybe slightly above average to something completely different very quickly because I learned with the technology, right? But I went straight into doing professional photography along with my painting and all of that. And I was moving into stock photography at the time. I took a stock photography. This is where, because I sold a couple magazine covers. And it was like, well, here's where you can actually kind of make a living almost. You can almost, make some money then. And I was moving into a stock photography land and then specifically horse stock photography. And then somebody came up with this idea. Like I'm like a year and a half, 2 years into this with some friends, some great friends. All there, the horse photography world was very small. There was the big players and there was us wannabes and it was very small. And then somebody came up with this idea of like $1 stock photo imagery, which continues to this day. You can get absolutely free or 99 cents, kind. And the photographers were up in arms because, of course, if they sold one photograph to PetSmart or to National Horse Magazine, they paid their bills for that month or maybe the next month. The idea that an image could go for 99 cents, well, they fought it tooth and nail. And I'll never forget it. For a good 6-9 months, I heard these people say, we just have to educate. We just have to educate the photographers coming up. We can't let this happen. Their whole livelihoods were built on this. And then the day happened. Are you ready for this? Because I was working for some horse photographers and I was fleshing out some of my own images for an article for a horse, a well-known horse magazine. And I needed a picture of a fence post, a particular kind of fence post because of a particular article. And it was cold and it was dark. And I went myself and bought a 99-cent picture of a fence post. And at that day, I hung up my ideal of being a stock photographer. I'm thinking, if I'm buying a fence post picture, when I have a fence post right outside and a camera right outside, but when I crunched the numbers, putting together my stuff, even putting my boots on, going to do it, downloading all the things. No, I'll take the 99 cent because then I can move on. And I bid my friends farewell, and they were like, "Oh, come on, you have to stay with us. You have to fight with us." And I'm like, I saw it. I saw the whole thing was just falling apart. Nobody makes a real living doing that anymore. The only place, photographers really, really have a chance is weddings or pictures or personal event kind of photo stuff. That's why wedding photography is so. And then anymore, I don't know, if you upload your image, well, here's me, here's my groom, give us some great wedding photos, right? You can almost do that now.
Yeah.
That's scary. Almost. I mean, I don't know, scary. It's certainly something to pay attention to, I guess.
It seems as if there's always like a win and a loss,
Yeah.
always two sides.
Yeah.
And time will tell, I guess, what will triumph.
Right. All right. So what are you looking forward to these days? I've kept you long enough. I've got to get going myself here pretty soon, but what's new? What are you looking forward to in the next little bit?
Well, I'm looking forward to Mallorca
Of course.
because it's very wintry here in Germany.
Mhm.
I'm looking forward to completing my second book.
Mm.
It's almost done, and just a couple of weeks, and then it's going to be born again. And so that's a highlight, definitely. What else?
Well, hold on now. Do you have a working title?
It is. It's book number 2 of my Soul Journey series.
Okay.
Yeah,
Good enough. And we'll
and
put
it's
links below to your other.
oh, thank you so much.
Of
Yeah, it's
course.
it's gonna be about star seeds,
Uh-huh.
and yeah, it's uh it's gonna be in German.
Of
There will be
course.
an international version,
Well, you
but
could use AI and just translate it.
right.
Oh,
Yeah. So yeah, I've been working a lot towards that. When that's done, then I will work on the transformative soul journey again, because I've been pushing that off. I mean, this, you're a creator as well. Like, there's only so much time in the day,
yeah.
and yeah,
Yep. Yep. You
you
gotta
have to
choose.
make choices.
Yep. You gotta choose. Well, that's wonderful. Well, I want to thank you for supporting our community at quantumhealers.com for so long and being with us. Just love your energy there, adding to the beautiful mix, and happy to hear all of the fun things in your life. Will you tell your crew hello once you get to the island? that I still have that one photograph of all of us that all I have to do is just even think of the photograph, and it brings me such joy. And it was such a sunny day, even though it was Germany. It was beautiful, blue skies, and your wonderful
Mm,
giant hearts for that time we spent together. I hope we can do it again at some point.
please.
Yeah.
I'd love that.
All right. So tell everyone how they can find you.
Well, my website is thesouljourneys.com. I do everything I do in German and in English. I have an Instagram account, uh, the.soul.journeys, and a YouTube channel. It's a German one, but I've also started on an international one. It's called Quantum Hypnosis. That's the channel
Mhm.
in the English channel. The German is the Soul Journeys as well.
All right.
So
All right. Well, good enough. Mario, it's been wonderful. I love you.
I love you too, Candace.
Thanks everyone for listening. Okay, until next time, it's Candace Craw-Goldman at quantumhealers.com. If you're looking for a quantum healer, check Mario out, check out the rest of us. Or if you're interested in joining us as an alternative healer of any kind, come on over to quantumhealers.com. We'd love to have you. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.